You're listening to Food Without Borders, a show about food, culture, and identity. I'm your host, Sari, Kamin, and you are listening to heritageradionetwork.org. Today, I am in studio with Rabbi Debbie Prinz. She lectures about chocolate and religion around the world. She is the author of On the Chocolate Trail, a delicious adventure connecting Jews, religion, history, travel, rituals, and recipes to the magic of cacao. Also in studio with me is Warren Klein. He has been the curator of the Herbert and Eileen Bernard Museum of Judaica at Temple Emmanuel since 2013. His exhibitions have included graphic posters, contemporary Jewish wedding gowns, Golda Meir, and currently Semite, Sweet, on Jews and Chocolate, the first ever exhibition about Jews and chocolate, which just so happens to be based on Rabbi Prinz's book, On the Chocolate Trail. So welcome, Rabbi Prinz, and welcome, Warren. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So this episode is a little different than the type of shows that I normally do. But Rabbi Prinz, you sent me a really good pitch about how chocolate is an immigrant food and how refugee Jews are responsible for kind of disseminating chocolate into the Western world. And I was very intrigued, so invited you to come on. So first, I'd love to hear a little bit about how, just besides the obvious why you like chocolate, but how you got, because, you know, that most people like chocolate, but how you got into chocolate seriously and it sort of became your life's work. And then how did you start making connections between chocolate and religion?
Thanks for the question, Sari.
Well, there's more where that came from.
The longer story is that my husband and I were planning a sabbatical trip from my congregational work in San Diego, California. And we were to rent a VW van in Amsterdam in March of 2006 and travel south and visit Jewish communities and from week to week. And it was going to be a trip through several countries in Europe. And we were in a conversation about whether we should stop in Paris or not. He had been there. I had not been there. It was going to be cold. He didn't want to go. I wanted to go. We were, in a discussion about it. Some people would call it an argument. And I happened...
It was a Jewish discussion.
Yes, it was one of those back and forths. And I happened to be listening to another radio station one morning, actually Valentine's Day, before I went to my office, and exercising at the same time as I was listening to this report on Valentine's Day over the radio about chocolate in Paris. And I'm sweating and salivating and sweating and salivating, listening to the story, excited to hear about the beautiful chocolate that was being described by David Leibovitz, food writer, in this report. And later that night, when Mark and I connected, I said to him, "Mark, do you know about chocolate in Paris?" He said, "Really? There's chocolate in Paris? I'll reroute the trip." So
wait, he didn't know that?
The trip. I didn't really know that either at that point, and he rerouted the trip, and we spent a few days in Paris. And I took my map of Paris, and I identified all the chocolate stores that were on the list, and the cultural sites that we wanted to visit, matched them up so we could expedite our time and get to everything we wanted to see. And we happened to go into a chocolate store that was not on the list, L'Atelier du Chocolat de Bayonne, where I happened to pick up their company literature, and I happened to be able to read in their high school French that it said that Jews brought chocolate making to France. And having been a congregational rabbi for about 30 years at that point, and having studied at seminary and Jewish studies classes in college and never heard that story that Jews brought chocolate making to France, I had to reread it again. Ooh la la, how could this be that I didn't know this?
Yeah.
And that started off the research and the investigation into Jews and chocolate, Quakers and chocolate, Catholics and chocolate.
Right. But your work primarily is really focused on the Jewish connection.
The show is focused on, the exhibit at the Bernard Museum is focused on Jews and chocolate, Semite Sweet, on Jews and chocolate, yes. We do try to give a little background about chocolate making and what information about chocolate in general, but we're really focused in that story, in that exhibit, on objects and archival materials, maps and memorabilia that connect to the Jewish story of Jewish refugees and immigrants who were involved in the chocolate business.